Okay. All right. So I'll let those guys. They'll get that sorted out. Okay. So all right, guys. So yeah, I can't do justice to it as I'm just getting comfortable with it. I'm getting more and more comfortable. So I keep it now open all the time. And of course, Jake's going to be able to take us through all the nuances here. I've kind of been watching these guys for 4 or 5 months. I subscribed to their YouTube channel as soon as I saw what they were doing because I was definitely interested. And so for a lot of you guys, I think this could be really helpful, particularly when you're tracking, a lot of currency pairs or crypto pairs, because and again, I'll let Jake kind of walk you through the advantages here of the way he has this set up. That for tracking a wide number of assets, there's just some incredible horsepower in here that these guys have done a really good job with. So it's not something where you're going to come in here and put a wave count on this, but I see it as it's traditional, or let's use the word classic technical analysis. And there's huge value here, and particularly it's very fast, very easy to move through a watch list. So this is, I think, a good default. So I have a daily, weekly, then a 4-hour daily, then a 1 hour, 4 hour, and then a 15-minute 1 hour. So that is kind of a nice default setup. But I'm going to hand it over to Jake. And as I mentioned to you guys, since Jake is not in our Discord here, we're going to have to do the Q&A through the little chat box here. So as I see, yeah, okay, we got about 15 of you guys in. All right. Okay, so let me just get this one guy. Okay, now that last guy, that's one of my senseis. He's got his audio sorted out. Okay, so with that, let me see. I'm going to turn this over to Jake and let him show you his screen. All right, Jake. So I just made you the presenter, so you should be able to bring your beautiful. Okay, I get to relax and watch now.
Yeah, your part's over now. My turn. So thank you so much for having me. First of all, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and be able to show you guys a little bit about the system and kind of what you were mentioning. We really created this platform to make technical analysis more efficient and more automated to the point where we're not taking away the discretionary part of trading and technical analysis, but we're allowing you to systemize and automate how you look at trend lines. So, for example, drawing a general trend line may seem just like connecting 2 points, but there's really math behind it. And that's what we kind of strive to do, is be able to allow you to automate the way you draw trend lines, the way you draw Fibonacci levels, and how you look at the market, and be able to create price alerts within those criteria, if you will. So to start off with, there's a lot of different kind of core features here, but we'll start off with trend lines. So when we turn on the trends button, we essentially have these different trend lines that will pop up. Now, these trend lines are based on these particular preferences within our kind of menu here. So we have 3 different variables. We have analysis type, drawing input, and then islands with gaps there in parentheses. That's just kind of looking at how the system will respect or ignore gaps in price. So right now we are looking at the settings for enhanced, the system looking at wick to wick, so connecting the wicks on the trend lines, and then the gaps. Now, when we go and change this, let's say to original, and I'll go to advanced here, you can see that we'll actually kind of change the way that the system is looking at the chart. So you'll notice that these trend lines just changed as I clicked apply. So when I go to, let's say, enhanced and click apply, you'll see that these base points are changing, and you'll see that the trend lines just changed as well. So the base points are really how the system is looking for trend lines and essentially kind of defining them. And so the lower the base points, the lower amount of points that you're kind of connecting. And so when we go to enhanced here with the lower base points, we'll kind of see probably more trend lines. And then when we go to something like original, which kind of looks at trend lines further away from each other, that's when we'll kind of get less lines, but maybe closer to what you may look at on the chart. So the cool thing is here, I haven't done anything, I haven't drawn anything. The system is automatically kind of picking up these main trends on the chart. And so if I went ahead and went to the 5-minute or the 10-minute, the trend lines are automatically going to change based on what the trend looks like, or what the current price action is showing. Now, the cool thing as well, we have this vertical line here, and that's called the truth and analysis line. And so whenever the line is kind of in the middle of the screen like this, the system has only used data to the left of this line. So any data that is to the right of this line, the system has not taken into account yet. So the price action has almost really respected these lines that were drawn way back, many time periods ago. Obviously, it's not that long in time because it's the 10-minute candle, but a lot of different candles far back. So when we refresh and lock this, the system is now taking into account all of the current price action, and that's why the trends have changed. And so just to note, the different colored trends are based on the different color formulas in the system. And so if you really wanted to, you could go in and really create your own formula here. And you could do that by just looking at the reference table. And so these are all the different variables defined below if you're interested in kind of getting more technical in this. But all of these different formulas are just based on these different variables below, and then the color is coordinated with whatever formula you're looking at. Any questions on that? Anything so far? I know, I guess nobody can ask via voice, but anything you have so far for me, Sam?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
You can hear me. I wasn't sure if my audio was going to be live while you were talking or not. Let's see. So Q&A, no, I think they're all good at the moment.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I just didn't want to have to go back and forth to look.
Yeah.
So, all right. So moving on, now, let's say that these trend lines maybe not, aren't exactly the trend lines you would think of, or maybe you think that there should be more on the chart. We do have this feature called Show Trends where you can go in and add more lines to the chart. So these are lines that the system is kind of filtering out, but then when you kind of start to unfilter the trend line, they will start to show up. And so, for example, if you wanted to lock in this trend line here, you just double click, go back to most relevant, and then that trend line is now locked in place. So there's a lot of different ways you can kind of become very, your own style, if you will. You can use the system to kind of complement your style, and then you can also use the show trends, or you can always just draw your own trend line as well. So it's very robust in the sense where we don't want the system to just do all the work for you. We want you to be able to go in and customize how the system's going to look for these things, look at these things for you. So that is how trend lines work. And now, kind of getting to our alert system on trend lines, let's say that we wanted to possibly see a breakout to this red line here. What we could do is we could create an alert by right-clicking and then create these different triggers and adjust the sensitivity here. So, for example, if we really don't want to be alerted unless the price gets right to this trend line, we would go far to the left. Now, let's say we wanted some margin of error here, just in case the price action doesn't get right to this trend line. We'll increase the sensitivity or the margin of error where the price action will alert you anytime you're pretty much anywhere within this shaded area. And so, for example, we can have it be triggered on the 5-minute candle, and let's say resistance above. You can create your own criteria here, 7 days have passed, or it's been triggered maybe 3 times. And then your alert is created, and anytime the price action gets in this area, you will be alerted for possibly whether you want to take profit, whether you want to go long, whatever the case may be. Now, on top of that, we also have the ability to create these alerts on indicators as well. So, if we go back to the daily, you can essentially kind of create these on the indicators as well. So for example, let's say that instead of this trend line, we want to be alerted when the price action touches this indicator. So in this case, it looks like the EMA 50 has kind of been kind of a line of best fit along this trend, if you will. And so what we can do is do the same thing. We can go in, create an alert at the indicator. So essentially, the alert is going to follow the waveform of the indicator rather than just, the slope of the trend line here. So it's however you'd like to follow things. I love to add alerts to the indicators just because it's really following exactly how the indicator is moving. And so we can do the same thing. Let's choose for 5 minutes. It's an EMA 50 alert and expires in 30 days. And then we'll go ahead and then we can see that now we will be alerted anytime that the price gets into this area, or if we wanted to be alerted on the downside as well, we could go in and create that trend line real quick. Let's do wedge support. And you're pretty much kind of set now to be alerted wherever the price moves. These are the two areas you're watching. You'll be alerted anytime the price action gets to any of these areas. Now, on top of this, what you can also do is you can overlay different time periods on the same chart. So for example, let's say that we want to look at the 10-minute candle. And then we also want to look at maybe how the 30-minute indicators are moving relative to how this price action is. So what we can do is click on MTFA, and we can add, let's say, 30-minute candle here, indicators, if you will. We won't see the actual candle, but then we'll be able to go here and actually overlay the 30-minute EMA 50 onto the chart as well. So for example, if you wanted to kind of see what the 10-minute candle is doing, but how it's interacting with the 30-minute EMA 50, you can go in and see that here. So you can kind of see here, we did have some price action kind of finding resistance right at the EMA 50 previous to making the new low here. You can do the same thing. You can create an alert. You can adjust the sensitivity however you'd like. And so you can really create these different robust alerts on any indicator or trend line, and really on any time frame. You can look at a shorter term time frame and create alerts on the longer term indicators or trend lines. Now, on top of that, to kind of add to the alerts, and let me just take off MTFA real quick. What we also have is auto fibs. So for example, when we create an auto fib, the system is automatically kind of capturing the most recent measured move. So for example, in this case, the system is capturing this measured move and kind of how the price action has moved around these levels. So if you're a big Fibonacci person, some people don't really believe in it, but sometimes you definitely will have stocks that really react very strongly to fib levels when other ones don't. But let's say that we wanted to create an alert at the 50% retracement area. We can also do that on the fib levels as well. So it's really a way to be able to follow and kind of track price action without having to stare at the chart constantly. On to the next feature, which will be really the ability to overlay as well on the lower indicators. So for example, when we go here and we add, let's say, the MACD, and if we want to do the RSI, what we can do here, same kind of concept, where essentially we can go in and do the MTFA, the multi-time frame analysis, and we can watch the 30-minute candle the 10-minute candle while we are following, let's say, the 1 hour kind of MACD. So in this case, we could draw the MACD on the 1 hour, so we can see the MACD is kind of possibly about to cross on the 1 hour chart, and then we can compare that to how the 10-minute candles are looking. So you can really make the chart very robust in the fact that you're using multiple time frames and multiple levels to see where price action may go. So that is how you can use the lower indicators as well. Another cool thing that I like to use is, let's say, let me turn this off. So for example, you can kind of see how the shorter term indicators are interacting with the longer term indicators. You can see here that the RSI on the 10-minute is actually finding support on the 30-minute RSI as well. So, excuse me, the 60-minute. So we've got the 10-minute and then the 1 hour here. So the 10-minute RSI is really kind of finding support right along this longer term indicator. So that is one way you can use it. There's a bunch of different ways you can kind of do studies on this. For example, notice when we broke down here, the 10-minute through the 1 hour, that was a signal for a bigger move down. And so there's a ton of different ways you can kind of use these lower indicators to create your own alerts, as well as the additional alerts. So we went over the Fibonacci alerts, the trend line alerts, the indicator alerts, but let's say that you want to use a specific criteria or set of rules for your trading. You can go in and let's just go back to the daily, and we'll add maybe the RSI. I like to use the vortex indicator and the percent range. So what we can do here is, let's say that I really want to be alerted if this potentially breaks out. What I can do is I can go in and create a multi-factor alert and create a set of rules for the system to follow and to alert me when all of those conditions become true. So for example here, we can do potential breakout and really create the same type of criteria. 30 days have passed, triggered once, and then we'll go in and let's say that I want to be alerted when the percent range is above -40. So there would have to be a pretty big pop to the upside. I could go in here, go to the daily indicator with the Williams percent range here is greater than the constant value of -40. So whenever that indicator starts to tick up, we'll be alerted when it gets above -40. We can also create another condition here. Let's say we want to do the daily RSI, the daily RSI, and let's say we want to do this up as well, maybe above is greater than the constant value of 50. And then for me, I like to use the vortex indicator to look for potential trend reversals. So in this case, notice how when the vortex indicator red crosses down below the blue, that's generally a short-term kind of reversal signal. And so for me, if I wanted to go in and capture this cross here, I could go in and do the daily vortex negative is less than the vortex positive, and that would signal that this is crossing and possibly a new short-term uptrend is occurring. So there's a lot of different ways you can create alerts, both on static kind of lines, as well as moving averages and even multi-factor alerts. To get even more into this, and this kind of tags on to the patterns feature, but let's say we also wanted to create another conditional group and have any of the following also occur. We could go in and say, I want to see the daily candlestick pattern. Let's say we want to look for a bullish engulfing or even a bullish harami. We can do that here as well, and we'll be alerted when those types of things start setting up. So we'll do harami cross bullish. And so you can add as many candlestick patterns as you'd like. You can add as many rules as you'd like here. And at the end of the day, you're really just creating a decision tree with conditions for when the system is making these true or false. So if I wanted to go and create the alert, I would just go create the alert here, and then I can follow and track that right here on the right-hand side within the alert widget. Now, the cool thing too is, let's say that you wanted to just do kind of a very generic alert. You can also go into our library, and let's say we want to do the golden cross on the 60-minute. We would have the simple moving average crossing the 200 here, and you could go in and kind of get these predefined and make alerts across a watch list if you'd like. So very soon we're going to have the ability to create these alerts on a whole watch list, and so you'll be able to really follow whatever tickers that you're following or pairs without really having to stare at each chart, and you'll have the system kind of track everything for you. So we'll just exit out of that. And going back to the patterns, you can do the pattern recognition on the alert, or you can actually have it done visually as well. So for example, if we wanted to look for advanced block, hammers, and haramis, we could apply that, and then the system will actually capture whenever we have these big moves up. And whenever these different patterns occur, you'll be able to see it on the chart. The last thing that we do have, and I saw that you did have this up on your charts, Sam, was the heat map. And so you can go in and create different heat maps here. In this case, it doesn't look like the heat map's picking up anything. But let's go to, let's say, SPY. I'm not sure why it's not pulling up on here. But SPY is a good example of kind of the heat map showing where there's a lot of different consolidation kind of happening with price action, and then those areas are then extended across the chart, and so they're kind of used as horizontal levels to watch. That is, I think, the whole demo for you guys. Hopefully I didn't go too quick, but that is a general overview of the platform. We are really here to automate the process of your specific strategy and technical analysis. We're not here to replace your technical analysis, just to help you make the whole process more efficient and have technology on your side to help complement your own analysis. And I will hand it back over to you, Sam.
Okay. All right, can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Yeah, you can hear me all right? Okay, good. So, yeah, there was a lot of Q&A coming across as you were talking, and I think everyone will be glad, myself included, that this is recorded, so we can go back through it. When I first looked at it, I didn't quite realize where all the power was, and it's truly in the alerts.
Yep.
And that's where the automation and the horsepower comes in. So as I was saying to my guys, that this is so much of what we do, particularly in Forex, is we're looking for a circumstance or some particular, one currency strong, one's weak. There's a reason to go look somewhere. So as Jake is pointing out, this is not designed to replace what we're doing. It's an additional tool to say, oh, something has alerted me to XYZ. So the automation has fired an alert. So in turn, I may want to go look at that on that time frame, analyze it as we would anything that we're looking at through the things that we do. This is just some additional enhancement. So if you're tracking, I'm trying to track 28 currency pairs, and I miss shit all the time. I just didn't see it. It's just happening, and I miss it. So I think this helps, and particularly for people who might be trading a pretty large portfolio of equities. It's really good, or tracking, if not trading, but trying to track, because they've got a full list of all of the equities in the S&P 500. But for us, for either crypto or for FX, where you can get quick access to that, it just helps you avoid missing some of the setups that we would come to and go, oh shit, I wish I'd seen that.
Yep.
That was just perfect. And I think that's where the real horsepower is. So it's one more reason to be alerted that, oh, something interesting is happening here. Let's go take a look at it and see if this meets the criterion that we would look for before entering a trade. Is the risk reward appropriate? Is there an Elliott count that's helpful to us? Can we look at an algo play that makes sense to us? Can we spot the algo footprint? And then add in the indicator triggers here, and I think you've got just a very powerful system. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, but your partner started with, was it Coinbase or was it trading? I know your lead designer.
Yeah, he started, he's done a couple things. He's worked with eSignal, TradingView. He was one of the first devs. That's Ruslan out of our dev team. And then Dan has really, his whole career has been built on automating things that you do manually. And so he really likes to make things more efficient and really automate things where you can automate it. And technical analysis is one of those things that can be repeatedly done the same way. And if you add some mathematical rules to it, a system can go in and help you out and, find things you may not find. So an example of that is I haven't really looked at Bitcoin, the chart, in forever. And I just pulled up the Bitcoin chart, and without me having to do anything, it kind of captured this wedge-looking setup, if you will. So it's
trust me, we've been staring at that for the entire year.
Yeah, and so it really picks up on a lot of these really obvious trend lines, but then it also will pick up sometimes on these untraditional lines that you may not catch. And a lot of the time I find myself just turning on the trend line mode just to try to find a new idea or a new line that I may have not looked at or thought about before.
Exactly. Yeah, there's real horsepower in that. And then I like if you might. So what time frame do you have on Bitcoin there? Daily?
This is daily. Yep. And then
then you start to drill down and you go to the 4 hour and then the 1 hour and the 15. All of a sudden, some interesting things start to appear.
Yep. And so now all of a sudden we're on the 30-minute. I haven't looked at the 30-minute candle. I don't think ever on Bitcoin. It's already picking up this kind of wedge that's forming on the shorter term time frame. So it's really there so you can go through a bunch of charts in a short amount of time without having to draw trend lines constantly. The system is really picking up.
That's the key right there. It's a lot of charts in a short amount of time through automation. So it's an efficiency tool. I really think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, and it's all, half the time people find themselves looking at the chart more than they're trading. And that's all, I love looking. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've found myself, looking at the chart, trying to find something a lot of the time when I should be making the trade. And so that's one thing I like to use this for is especially the alerts. Like, for example, when you create an alert at the top of the resistance, and then you're just alerted when the price gets there. I don't have to constantly look at the chart all day when I've got a million things I'm trying to do. Sometimes I need that, but sometimes I'm working and I don't have time to look at it all day.
Exactly. I miss things all the time, and that was really what started to attract my attention to it. Again, we're tracking a lot of crypto pairs plus 28 FX pairs, and just no way you can get through them efficiently, and this is a great tool for that. Particularly for people that work during the day or have to split their time between other responsibilities and trading. There's not that many of us that can sit in front of the screen all day and trade all the time. So this is a great tool for that. And that was a big part of what attracted me to it and why when Jake and I started talking, I just said, man, I absolutely love this. I'd love to show it to my members. So it's the kind of thing you want to play with it a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, but you guys have a relatively generous trial period for people to get in there and kind of get used to playing with it.
Yeah, we don't want to have you use it and pay for it if it's not useful. So we have a 7-day trial, and even if you need more time, we're happy to extend it up to 14 days if you need more time. So we know there can be a learning curve with this. It is kind of a newer system, and there are a lot of kind of nuances and kind of buttons on the system. So we know it can take a little bit. We want to give users the ability to have as much time as they need with the system.
Yeah, good. Can you talk a little bit about where you see the product going over the next 6 months to a year?
Sure. Yeah. So
in terms of features or enhancements, or where you guys think you're going to take it, because it seems to me like you're just scratching the surface of the potential here.
Yeah, so what we really want to do is be able to automate different things like back tests. One thing that I really...
I'm glad you mentioned that. That was a question I got. Could it be automated such to where you could do a back test on it?
That is where we're going with this. So obviously kind of the alerts is the first piece of that. And so what we really want to get to the point in doing is, let's say that you create an alert, right? We just created the potential breakout here. What we want to be able to do is go have a little button down here that says, test my strategy. And you'd be able to go in and have the system find every time these criteria have occurred, and you can go in and see what the probability is, how long has the system or how long has the back generally taken to materialize, all that type of thing. So that is very forward looking, but that's where we want to get this to the point where we're doing that.
Yeah. That would be huge. Wow, I'm a little wet just thinking about that. That's fantastic.
So
that would be awesome.
Yeah, and that, I think that would be a huge utility booster for people as well, because that takes a lot of, and it's not that we're creating a signal or you're creating a signal for yourself. You're just looking back and saying, okay, this has happened 5 times. The chances or the probability that it returns X percent is this. Just really hard math, because at the end of the day, trading is a lot of probabilities and just, expected values of those probabilities. And so having that information could be huge. Now, what we also have that in the pipeline is the ability to really create your own customizable candles. Now, right now, we're just going on the Bulkowski definition, the mathematical definition, but there's a couple problems with that. And what if I don't really want to follow Bulkowski's exact definition? Or, what if I want to tweak my candle a little bit? We want to get to the point where you'll be able to go in and really define your own candle, where it says, this is only a hammer if there's been 10 down candles with a 5% greater or more drop. So, for example, you'd really be able to define what your hammer is, rather than just having the system define every time it mathematically sees a hammer. For example, here, it says we have a hammer here, but for me, that's not a hammer yet. The trend hasn't even really changed or anything. I would want to see a hammer down here. So maybe I would have the system alert me only when a hammer forms after 10 candles and a 5% drop, that type of thing. To get rid of that noise.
Beautiful. Okay.
One more thing that we do hope some brokerage platforms integrated, or our system integrated into theirs, where you'll be able to actually make trades off these alerts rather than having to go to a secondary source to actually place the trade.
Yeah, we talked about that. That will be a huge step forward to really having a self-contained system.
Yeah, and I don't want to forward look too much, but those are some things we're really thinking of, and really just making the alerts more robust. So as I mentioned, we'll have the ability to create this alert and put it on an entire watch list. So the system will constantly be looking for these setups for you in your watch list.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that was another question I had. That's very nice to hear. Fantastic. Well, so I'm kind of fielding questions here within the Discord here. You guys are so used to that. Let's see if I've got everything covered. So that's asked and answered. So we're very fib focused, very much. So I know one of the questions I had from a member here is, can you show them a little bit about how you can make changes in what you're pulling fibs from?
Yeah, so the fib, that's another thing that we're actually working on making a little more customizable. So right now, when we go and turn on a fib, let me get to the week daily. I don't know, I'm so used to daily candles, even though it really doesn't make any difference. So with the fibs, it's really based on actually what the trend line preferences are. So for example, when I change the preference on the analysis type from original to enhanced, it's actually going to change the way that the system's looking at the fib. Now, for me, honestly, this isn't necessarily my ideal fib. So what you can do is you'll be able to really draw your own fibs and be able to kind of customize how the system looks for them more. Now, the cool thing too is, let's say that you wanted to look at the weekly Fibonacci levels. You can also overlay those levels as well. to kind of see how the short-term price action is being impacted by these. So it's one of the things that we are working on making more customizable. We really want the system to be able to automate how you're looking at fibs, not necessarily how we're just looking at them based on the trend preferences. And so that is one thing we're working on kind of enhancing as well. But that is where the numbers and the levels come from at the moment, just essentially based on what the base points are for the trend lines.
Just for fun, would you bring up gold, if you would? Which it looks like you got GLD.
We have GLD. That's another thing that we're going to add. We're looking at adding some indexes as well soon. But for now, we use GLD as a proxy for gold.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Or look, I was asking only because I just did a video on it. How about the dollar yen, which I see you have in that little Forex watch list? I'm curious how it deals with that crazy spike.
Yeah, so we are looking at the daily versus the weekly. If we looked at the daily fibs, it may kind of capture this move here.
Nice, yeah. Beautiful, caught the 786 perfectly. So if you were, just for fun, so we'll do this exercise. So if you brought that chart up for the first time, it looks to me like that's your default set. Those are your preferences for the indicators that you like.
On the lower side of things, or just on?
Yeah. Where you've got relative strength in the vortex and the average rate.
The solely I use, but you can add indicators very easily through the line.
Oh yeah. No, I'm just going. So that I was just trying to see how would you hang on a second. How would you tackle that chart? You brought that up. You saw a 786. Just kind of your thought process on how you would go about analyzing that chart.
So if I just pulled it up with the fibs here, the first thing that I would kind of look at is, all right, we're really trading right at the 61.8%. Maybe I create an alert at the 78.6% if we kind of bounce again. And so that's kind of my first kind of thing I would immediately do. It's just 78 level. And then, 1 day, 7 days have passed, do this. And then I would really start to look at, all right, well, based on the percent range, every time that we've become oversold here, generally, there's some type of bounce. So maybe then I would go in and start creating this conditional criteria alert for the same thing, the breakout. And the cool thing is I can just go here and clone this. So essentially, same thing. I'll just do yen breakout, and all of the same criteria that I just did on the euro US dollar is here. And I would just go and create, and then essentially I'd be alerted when we break out through the percent range, RSI, and then if the vortex started to converge, it would all be caught within this new alert that I just made.
Oh, that's cool. And would you use trend lines on that chart?
For me, this is kind of skewing the chart for me right here. I would definitely.
Yeah, I have that same problem.
I would probably just throw on the daily and the weekly just to see kind of where the trend lines are. But for me, sometimes, especially like this, it looks like the price action is respecting the fib level enough where you don't necessarily need a ton of trend lines. You could maybe draw one right here, or try to capture this move right here, and then if we wanted to do maybe the symmetrical wedge here, and so maybe those would be the trend lines I add.
That's right. I'm glad you did that. That's what I was just looking at.
So we kind of have this. We have this wedge, but then it's kind of skewed by this big old wick here, this hammer. I don't know what the heck happened here, but that's one thing I would really look for too, is whether I connect the wick to the wick starting here, or if I connect it here. I think it's preference by whoever the user is. Right.
Yeah, I was just curious how you would tackle that.
I do like trend lines though. I use them a lot, but if I see that there's not necessarily a huge, trend, at least short term, then sometimes I'll just throw in the fibs and see how that is acting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this kind of captures the recent price action pretty good.
Yeah. So my first thought is I'd be putting alerts on those trend lines just to draw my eye to them should they start to get broken. Yeah,
and the cool thing too is, right, if you didn't want to have to look at it all day and you just wanted to really be alerted whenever the price action broke, let's remove this, whenever the price action broke through this general channel, I just usually will throw an alert on each one. So I'm alerted regardless of what happens. We got one here, we got one here. So then whenever anything really, actionable happens, we'll be alerted when it breaks down through this area.
Mm-hmm. Really cool. Really, you guys have made a great. This has gotten just better and better. Every time I look at it, it gets better and better. Okay, so guys, any other questions? Oh wait, I got a bunch here. Do the trend lines update automatically when not on the platform?
So for example, the trend lines will only. So for example, here we've got the trend lines that are kind of showing up. But these trend lines are only a function of the data to the left of this line. So they're only going to update when you go and refresh and lock, and then they'll update based on the new data that came in.
Oh, wait. So now do that one more time. I didn't quite follow you there.
So I'll do it on a minute. So
or maybe go to a smaller time frame. Do third perfect.
Let me do USDC. I haven't done anything with this chart. We'll do the 5 or the 1 minute. And of course, now I just updated it, so now it's kind of analyzing real time. But let me go to like Home Depot or something. Well, right now it's odd. The truth and analysis line is capturing just this particular thing. Let's see. Let me turn it off.
Well, you want to be on the 1 minute? Maybe try the 15. Or does it matter?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the truth line to go back, but it seems to be just capturing right where we're at. Actually, it might be a bug. We may have just.
Well, that's not bad though. So then, if we put the trend lines on it, it's all the current data.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's just the only time the system would update is when you are going in and kind of changing the analysis. So right now we're up to date, so the system is automatically going to pull up the trend lines that are relevant to this price action, but then, there will be times where the system is not updating necessarily real time, it's just capturing what has happened at this particular point in time. And so that's why we have the truth and analysis line, because it kind of tells you where the system last looked at the data and captured that data.
Right. Got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so let's see if I've got any other questions. Do alerts get added? This is the question. Do the trend lines update and do the alerts get added to them? Oh, answered. Okay, so he got that. He's already got that answered. So is the watch list not currently active? Not sure I follow you on that one, Wallace. Is the watch list not currently active? Is the watch list? So I'm not sure what you're asking. Bear with me, Jake. It's one of my guys.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so he said that the alerts could be applied to the whole watch list. Is that right?
Soon. That's coming hopefully in the next couple weeks. But
upcoming.
Right.
Okay.
But for what you can do is, let's say that you've got a specific criteria that you're following. Let's say we had the U.S. dollar, euro U.S. dollar. And then when we cloned it, we just made it on the US yen, USD yen. And so you can clone it and on another ticker, but you actually can't, what we're going to have the ability to do is, let's say you've got your watch list and you would just go and put your criteria in and it would watch every stock on the watch list. But that is not here yet. Good. It is coming. So you'll have alerts on the whole watch list soon.
Here's one which you and I talked about, Jake, and I know it's coming. And in fact, I sent you a link to look at it. So one of my guys is asking, is there a pitchfork option?
There is not, but we are looking to add a lot of those types of things. Elliott waves, pitchfork, that is definitely something we want to kind of add, and we are going towards pattern recognition as well. So that's something we have in the pipeline. So for example, looking for head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders, flags, pennants. So that, I think that will probably fall in within that project. Obviously, a pitchfork is more like a trend line than a pattern, but I think it will probably fall in that kind of project time. So not exactly sure when that will be.
Okay. Yeah, my guy, because we're so Elliott wave and pitchfork focused. One of my guys is saying, boy, a triangle would be, if we could identify a triangle, that would be just fantastic.
Yeah, and so for example,
you have one right there.
Yeah, there's different kind of setting sets that will capture wedges better than maybe something else. So in particular, I like to use, original sometimes is a great way to kind of capture the outer price action. And then when you go to like either experimental, you're kind of capturing more of like, different areas as well. In this case, it's still kind of capturing this wedge. So there are times where the system will really capture the wedge perfectly. We just don't have like a quote unquote wedge mode yet, where it's just trying to capture wedges. But that's where we'd ideally like to be going towards.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's see. I think I've got any plans for so Baby Whale. That's what he's talking about. In fact, Baby Whale, I sent him the link to Laser Fork so he could look at that to get for some ideas for adding that in.
Yep.
You and I think alike.
So no, we're definitely something we're looking at, and really are excited about what's coming in the future.
Yeah, good. All right, I got a few guys typing here, so let me see. So. I think I've got most of them. I got one of my guys who does some programming for us in Ninja is typing up something. Bear with me here. He's a very slow typer. Also plans to judge and set up easy to be. Yeah, so right, exactly. So he talked about that. So they're going to have. So the question, Jake, is plans for the system to judge its setups and using it to rate setups in terms of a high probable setup and how probable it has been in the past, which is a little bit of the back testing we talked about.
Yep, that would be more when we get into the back testing side of things, but we definitely have talked about hopefully tackling maybe in Q3.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I think that covers everything here. So we ran for about an hour. That sounds about right. Okay. So you guys, the website. You can always go to TrendSpider.com, and if you want to take advantage of the trial, that's how I started with it, and was just fascinated with what they were doing. And so when Jake reached out to me, I was excited because I saw the potential here. So guys, if there are any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll let Jake go, and I'd encourage you guys to go and take the trial and play with it a little bit and see if you can find some ways it can help you.
Perfect.
Oh, hang on. Oh, yeah, they're good. Okay, so they're just all saying thank you.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, and
it's our pleasure, man. I can't wait to see where this goes. And as I said, I keep it open all the time.
Hey. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that, and look forward to some new features down the road, and maybe we can do another one of these once we have newer features to showcase.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jake.
Hey, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, guys. See you later.